All right, 4:50 in the afternoon, pushing right up to that 5 o'clock hour. Karen Rehfeld, the Director of Office Management and Budget, is on the line with me. Welcome back to the program, Karen.
Thank you.
Yes, Juneau, today, Alaska Governor Sarah Palin announced today that, as previously stated, she will veto the $28.6 million in federal stimulus funds tied to the adoption of building codes by municipalities. She goes and talks about the independence of Alaska and opposing mandates. My colleague here, Glenn Beagle's in the studio with me. Glenn, you have some questions for the director.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to thank you for rejecting at least some of the federal stimulus money. Obviously, it's a very poor creator of jobs. We are beyond their worst-case scenario if we had never implemented the federal stimulus plan. So I do appreciate that. I also appreciate your position on retaining the state of Alaska's rights and keeping us an independent people. But there's always got to be a but, doesn't there, Eddie?
I guess.
Karen,
okay.
I'm looking long term here, and the first thing that I noticed, I've talked to some people, some legislators and others, who say that I think the estimate for the price per barrel of oil is like $66 a barrel for the next year.
In the 10 budget, it's right. It comes right in at $58.
Oh, 58. Okay.
Yeah, in current year we've got it at about $66.
And now, what I have heard is that if we were at that level, we would actually have about a $2.5 billion shortfall, not a $1.3 billion. Can you sort of explain the difference there? And the reason that I wanted to talk about this is I see our reserve fund sort of running out of money a little earlier, and then that gives me some concern about our permanent fund and that they may take the earnings for the legislature.
Well, and those are good questions because that's exactly what the governor and the legislature have been wrestling with, this whole session when we were crafting the budget for next year. And because of many of the actions taken by the governor and the legislature, the draw on the reserves are much less than we had originally projected. But one of the things that occurred in the 10 budget, and I don't know that people have talked about it a lot, is the failure of the three-quarters vote to fund basically the public education, which is about $1 billion, results in us going in and using the public education fund in the 2010 budget. So that helps us basically with that revenue picture, where at $58 we're looking at about $3.2 billion in general funds, and our spend is about $4.2 billion in general funds. So taking that billion out of the education funds is what helps us balance the 10 budget.
I see.
Now, what that does is preserves the constitutional budget reserve, so that we can extend the life of that savings account. Hopefully, as we see the improvement in the financial markets and our earnings in those various savings accounts, that will help us in the future as well. But I think what it means is that we're really looking at budgets that are going to have to be tight. We're not going to be in a position right now until we get a little bit better boost in the revenue picture to move forward with some of these big projects, but that doesn't mean we can't move forward, particularly in the area of energy and energy conservation, which is going to help reduce the cost of energy in Alaska.
You say a tight budget. Do you think this is a minimal budget? Is this as small as the budget can get here for the state of Alaska? And if we had a continued downturn in the economy, which a lot of people expect, and maybe even a darkening picture because of another 3% unemployment being tacked on to what we have now. Do you think this could be a minimal budget, or do you see that it could get smaller in the future?
This is a minimal budget for the current level of state services. I really think that if we were looking at a very dark financial future, and I tell you, my crystal ball isn't very, very good, because I think that last year all of us were not necessarily expecting where we had been and where we are now. But
right.
I think if we were really looking at having to do things very differently, Alaskans would have to look carefully at what state governments is providing make some very difficult decisions about what we should no longer do as a state.
Well, they just went through something like that in California, where they said basically, well, look, this is what it's going to take. Let's put it out for the people to vote on, and they can tell us whether or not we should continue doing things the way we're doing them, or whether we should take a pretty dramatic dramatic shift. Is the governor interested in putting additional spending or continuing the current level of spending before the people? And how do you think that would turn out?
You know, I have not had a conversation with the governor about actually putting something before the people as a vote. I do know the governor's very, very concerned about the size of the budget and has worked very hard the last 3 years on making sure that we are appropriately investing Alaskans' dollars and providing service at the most efficient, less cost we can. But I have not had a conversation with her about doing something like California.
We're speaking with Karen Rehfeld, Director of Office of Management and Budget. Karen, we do appreciate you coming on the show today. Do you anticipate, is there what are your critics out there saying currently about what the governor has done today by vetoing some of the stimulus money? Do you anticipate a veto override, or what's the speculation, or do you care to speculate?
Well, clearly that's going to be up to the legislature and to their leadership, and I have not had any of them say to me that that's something that they're going to do. But clearly, I think there will be conversations, and they'll make those decisions.
Yeah, I think last year what the legislature did is they didn't want to be the big person in the room, and they approved a lot of this stimulus money and put the political pressure back on the governor. You know, that's politics, though, for you. Instead of rising to the cause and to the challenge, it's better to say, "Oh yeah, I'm for it. Yeah, I'm for all the money." That way, people don't complain to them. They put the whole blame on the governor. Now, maybe that was done, maybe it wasn't done, but that was my kind of perception of it all. Any comments on that?
Well, the governor asked the legislature to really take a hard look at these dollars. She's like I said, from the very beginning, she's been very, very concerned about all of that and managing the expectations and what are we really getting. And it wasn't invested in the infrastructure that we really had hoped it would be. So she asked them to look carefully at the stimulus package, and they spent a lot of time on it and did a lot of work on it. I think they passed the bill that they believed contained enough safeguards to protect the one-time nature of the funds and all of that. But the governor still maintained those concerns, especially on the energy money, and so. I think in fairness, the legislature did what the governor had asked them to do and engage the public through the budget, and so that was appreciated.
All right, Karen Rehfeld, thank you so much for joining us today. Glenn Beagle, thank you for helping me out there, and
thanks for having me.
You'll be here at 5:30, coming up right after CBS 11 News. Again, Karen Rehfeld, thank you so much for taking